We're going to start with the biggest matchup of the week. There's no sense in delaying. I know you're excited to talk about it, but so am I. The Buffalo Bills defeated the Kansas City Chiefs 30-21. The Bills are still alive for the 1 seed. They hand Kansas City their first loss since Christmas of last year, 2023. The Chiefs have not allowed a team to score 28 or more points in the last 30 games. That's how good this defense has been, and the Bills hit that mark. They hit over 28. They hit 30 points. Ryan, you are the Bills fan. Let me just ask you, and you can take it where you want. How are you feeling about Buffalo after this win?
I'm feeling really, really good, man. And I don't want to overhype this, but this is a monumental win for the Bills. And I know the score was pretty close, and every time, without surprise, anytime these two teams face each other, it's going to be a matchup. Almost every time an instant classic. I wouldn't say it went that far today, but I do feel like the Bills were in pretty solid control most of the game, even though the score, doesn't really represent that as much. What I take away from this is, obviously, this is one step closer to the 1 seed. We need that. We want that really bad.
If they lost this game, they were out. They were out of it,
completely
in my
out.
opinion, because you would have been too far behind to climb back.
And what I was really thrilled about is the Bills were without Keon Coleman today, and Curtis Samuel stepped up. Shakir, I wouldn't even say he stepped up. He just played his usual part.
Curtis Samuel, this was the first game he's had that was meaningful all year.
Correct. Mari Cooper had that great sideline pass. That was terrific. I would like to see him utilized more in the game, but it is his first week back since he played 1 game. Then he was out for like 3 weeks, and now he's back. So this is essentially ground zero for me. He's got to develop that relationship with Josh Allen.
Josh Allen tried to the pivotal play. I mean, 2 receptions, 55 yards, and they were big plays both times.
Correct. Yeah, if there's a man to step up in crunch time, Cooper is that guy.
You might have felt this way before. And I know it's the regular season game, and I'm not saying this as a Chiefs fan. Any game's meaningful, but it's not like it's new that the Bills beat them in the regular season. Other teams can't. The Bills do. The Bills can beat them in the regular season, and then in the playoffs, obviously, we'll see what happens when we get in January. I want to focus on this. Do you feel like after this performance, as a Buffalo fan, because you actually, if anyone's new to the channel, first off, welcome. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, tell your friends about it. You're actually harder on the Bills than most Bills, but we get so many comments of this guy's a hater. It's no, he's just, a pessimist when it comes to the Bills. Do you think they are one of the best teams in the league? Do you think they can win the Super Bowl this year? Maybe you thought it before this game, but does this reassure you?
Yeah, so before this game, I was a little skeptical about saying that and coming out, on a public platform and announcing that.
Yeah.
This was that milestone game to me. This was the game where I really could see what the Bills were made of this year. And every year, I don't care if you say, the Bills always do this. They always beat the Chiefs during the regular season, and then in the playoffs, they choke. Whatever. You can say that all year long, all day long. I don't care. It still takes a wholehearted effort to beat the Chiefs in the regular season every year. So take nothing away from that. This is the milestone game where I was like, okay, if the Bills play good this game, they play a full 60-minute football game, end to end, look great on offense and defense, this is the game where I say, yeah, the Bills are one of the best teams in the NFL this year. And winning this game going into the bye is huge.
Oh, see, I actually forgot they had the bye next week.
Yeah, so they have the bye next week, and hopefully, on the flip side of that, we get Milano back. Possibly.
I feel like we've been saying that for 3 years now, though, to be fair, with Milano.
Keon Coleman will hopefully come back. And look, we're going to need a fully healthy team for the gauntlet that we have for the rest of the season, because after the bye, we come back to the 49ers, who have been playing a little below average here lately. But then we have the Rams, the Lions, the Patriots, the Jets and the Patriots. So the Lions is that game I'm circling, right? That's the game that I think everybody wants to see. Right. Because it could come down at that point to these may be the 2 best teams in the NFL, period, by that point.
It could be a Super Bowl preview. It absolutely could be. And we know the Bills are always good, but and whatever you think about the Chiefs or not, it is kind of a measuring stick game. It's the back-to-back Super Bowl champions who were undefeated. They hadn't lost a game since Christmas, literally almost a year straight without losing game, one of the longest streaks in NFL history, I believe. So you want to see, how do we stand up to them? And I think in all of the games we've seen Buffalo versus Kansas City, this rivalry, because it is a rivalry, and me and you have obviously been following it, I think this is the most impressive performance Buffalo has played against Kansas City, even more impressive than the 13-second game, because of what you said earlier. And I just want to give the Bills flowers, but it felt like they controlled the whole ball game. Now, as a Chiefs fan, I always think the Chiefs are going to win because that's just what we do. You know, they hang around, then at the end they find a way to win. It really, in the second half, it just felt like the Bills were controlling it, and the Bills were aggressive. Let's look at the box score real quick just to show you. Pass yards, obviously Josh Allen, way more, 262 to 181. Rush yards, Bills ended with more, 104 to 78. Allen's legs really helped that. Most of the game, the Chiefs were controlling the ground game. I mean, Buffalo's ground game was non-existent other than the goal line touches. Third down conversions, the Bills were fantastic, 9 for 15. Chiefs 50%, 5 for 10. Red zone, Chiefs 3 for 3, 3 for 4 for Buffalo, 2 turnovers for Kansas City, 1 for Buffalo. Pretty even, but when you look at the time of possession, 25 minutes for Kansas City, 34 for Buffalo. Tony Romo mentioned this on the broadcast. Buffalo did what Kansas City does to teams. Kansas City goes on long drives, 10, 12, 13-play drives, and keep the defense on the field and wear them down. This is the first time all year I've really seen the Chiefs' defense just look out of sorts by the time we got into the fourth quarter. There were more wide-open guys in this game than I can remember against the Chiefs' defense in the past 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the first games where the Chiefs have let a team score like 28 or more points on them.
Oh, yeah, they haven't given up more than like 20, 21 points all year.
Yeah, that's one thing I will credit the Buffalo Bills today is offensively and defensively, they shook it up. Like they threw some really dynamic play calls out on both sides of the ball, especially on the defensive side. But Joe Brady had an answer to Spag's defense today. Like he would always shake it up. He would always throw something out at him. And then when all that failed, Josh Allen would just take off and run. And like Chris Jones, man, if it was a tackle every time he touched Josh Allen, it would be like 8 sacks. But Josh Allen just found a way to get out of the pocket and to make a positive play every time.
Another thing I just want to credit Buffalo, and they mentioned this on the broadcast, at the end of the game, when Buffalo had it to go up 2 scores, they stayed aggressive. And we've seen so many times, and Romo mentioned this too, where Buffalo kind of takes their foot off the gas and it's like, oh, it's okay, we'll punt it back. No, they kept throwing it. They weren't running the ball with James Cook because I know you look and you're like, oh, James Cook, 2 touchdowns. James Cook couldn't do anything. The Chiefs defense stuffed the run. They've done that all year. You can't run on the Chiefs defense. I mean, I don't think Buffalo, other than Josh Allen, would have had many rushing yards at all. And that's obviously a different category. They stayed aggressive. Buffalo put their foot on Kansas City's throat and said, no, we're not giving Mahomes the chance to beat us this time. We're going to put the game away when we have the chance. And that's what's been missing the past few times with Buffalo facing Kansas City. They'll get in a position to win, and they just won't close it out. And that's what so many teams do against the Chiefs. This was a complete performance by Buffalo, and that defensive coordinator also, wow. Like, this was probably the most impressive performance from that Buffalo defense all year. The Chiefs offense, they had their opportunities. Xavier Worthy not getting his foot down, the Mahomes interception on the first drive. Kansas City, I think, got away from the run a little. They were averaging like 5 yards a carry in the first quarter. It just seemed like Kansas City didn't capitalize on the opportunities as much as Buffalo did.
Yeah, 2 accolades I want to throw out. So this is the 4th best 11-game start in franchise history for the Bills. So that's something. And the top 3 were actually pre-2000. So pretty much in our lifetime, this is the best start to an 11-game series that the Bills have ever had. So kudos to them on that. And then also, Josh Allen tied Cam Newton today for, and I'm going to try to get all these right, quarterback to have 200-plus passing yards, 50-plus rushing yards, a touchdown in the air, and a touchdown on the ground. 9 games he's done that now. Tied it with Cam Newton, and then Russell Wilson has, I think, 6 or 7 games. So it's pretty astonishing to see where the Bills were earlier this season, preseason, and especially last year where we were calling, me too, was calling for Sean McDermott to be fired, and the Bills were done. They need to rebuild.
This was the rebuild year.
And now it looks like it's possibly a Super Bowl year. Who knows?
I told you I thought they were going to compete this year. I did.
Yeah.
Now, I thought they were going to be good and in contenders this year, even though it was a rebuild year. I agreed with you. Like, we can rehash the McDermott thing another time. I don't even want to get into that right now. here's the thing. I want to say 2 points. One, I think this game firmly cements Josh Allen as the MVP frontrunner now. When you combine it with the fact that Lamar Jackson had his worst game of the year, I mean, looked truly awful. Josh Allen has had one terrible game this year, that Houston game where he was like 9 for 30. But Jared Goff had his bad 5-interception game. It feels like Josh Allen took the keys over and said, I'm going to drive for a little bit and be the MVP frontrunner. Kind of like last year where we had a couple guys back bouncing forth. As long as Josh Allen doesn't have a bad performance or slip up or really, just piss the bed, then I think the MVP is his. And he doesn't have an MVP yet. So I would actually really like to see him get it. He's playing fantastic. This is the game right here. The Bills went on a 10-play, 83-yard touchdown drive to go up 2 scores, okay? That's when they had the illegal pick play. But, they were probably going to score anyway. Seriously, I'm just kidding.
That play did not decide the game.
No, they were going to score anyway. It was an illegal pick. You think the Chiefs were going to stop them? They let him go 83 yards, but they're going to stop him that final 6. No. I was saying that to you because like all the people that are like, Chiefs always get all the calls. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Not tonight.
Anyway, I thought it was fair game though. Kansas City immediately answered. They went 10 plays, 70 yards to get back in the game. Buffalo led 23-21 with 8 minutes left after that second Noah Gray touchdown. And then that's where I talked about Buffalo just putting their foot on the throat. A game-winning touchdown drive with that Josh Allen run. The run on that I think it was 4th down, wasn't it?
It was 4th and 2, I believe.
Right. So instead of kicking the field goal, they're like, nah, we're going for the jugular. Because if we kick the field goal, which is what they've done in the past, Mahomes is going to get the ball back and he's going to beat us. Give Josh Allen a chance to win it, not Bass. And he had one of his most impressive runs of the season. It could end up being like the defining MVP moment of the regular season. When it happened, obviously I was dejected. My wife was watching it with me, and I said, when that run happened, I said, holy shit, that was amazing. I was just excited because it was such an incredible play. So congratulations to you, my friend. Congratulations to the Buffalo Bills. They earned it.
Thank you. And we've exhausted the Bills, so I would like to just touch on the Chiefs because they do need to be acknowledged, right? So a couple of questions for you. First question is, with this being your first defeat of the year, is there some type of relief from holding that mantle and not being now there's no undefeated teams, right? So now you're a team that has pretty much had a reset. The Bills pressed y'all's reset button today. You're not undefeated. You don't have to, put on a show as the undefeated team anymore. You almost lost it to Denver last week. This week you did lose it to the Bills. So is it a relief? Like, is the locker room, you think, a little bit they walk a little bit lighter now, not have as much pressure and anxiety staying the undefeated team in the NFL?
The short answer, yes. Obviously, you want to win the game. You want to beat Buffalo. Yeah. You're not like, glad we lost that game. But to your point, yes, because one, I don't think anyone's going undefeated. I just don't think that's happening. The Chiefs have to lose. And it was getting to the point where I was like, man, I kind of hope we go ahead and have a loss at some point because I remember last year, the Chiefs were bad. They lost on Christmas to the Raiders, got blown out. And then they came back around. It seems every year the Super Bowl winner, for the most part, 80% of the time, the team that wins the Super Bowl is the team that really gets it together, gets hot, and starts rolling late. We've seen a lot of teams, recently the Steelers, the Cardinals start out 9-10-0 and then completely fizzle down the stretch. I'm not worried about Kansas City fizzling down the stretch because it's Reed and Mahomes, but I do think it gives you a bit of a reset. It just kind of takes that off of you because when you're undefeated, especially once you get to week 8, week 9, it's every week, could they do it? Could they get close? So yeah. It is glad to just have the undefeated thing over with.
So, and also I want to congratulate Kansas City. The fact that you guys were undefeated up until this point with all you've been through this year is astonishing. It is absurd that Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid have single-handedly worked through all these adversities, injuries, games where it's been really close. I mean, you guys play close games all the time. That's just what you do. It's in your DNA. That's never going to change, I don't believe. As long as Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid is there, they're going to find a way to always play really close games. But for that to happen and to stay undefeated to this point is amazing. Now, one thing that losing this game today does for you guys is you have to be really careful for the remainder of the season because right now it's the Bills and the Steelers that are really vying for that top spot in the AFC. Next team down is going to be the Texans, and I just don't see there any way that they get there. So the Steelers, that would be a surprise if they finish above mine and your team. That would
they still got 5 divisional games, so that they've got a really tough stretch.
But let's talk about Kansas City's rest of the year stretch, because it's not super easy by any means, because you have a couple of divisional games too. So you get the Panthers and the Raiders next. Those are two great bounce back games. Like, those are two games where you can probably put your foot on their throat and milk them for all they're worth. But then you play the Chargers. That's going to be a terrifying game. Now, it is at Arrowhead, so that's good. But it's going to be a tough game. And again, another divisional game. Then you have the Browns, the Texans, which we will be out live. So check that out on our YouTube channel. We will have a couple of vlogs coming out about our trip to Kansas City. It's our annual, fourth annual trip to Kansas City, something like that. And this is the first one where we'll actually be making a video of our trip up there. So tune in for that. And then you get the Steelers. And then last game of the year is the divisional matchup with the Denver Broncos, a rematch after you guys played them super close just a week ago. Are you concerned about the rest of the year? Are you worried that you guys may lose out of the first seed? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the 1 seed's not a given for sure. I am a little concerned about that because the Chargers and the Broncos are the main reason. I'm actually not even that concerned about the Texans because their offensive line. I'm not worried about that, especially if the Chiefs get Omenihu back. But yeah, it's going to be tough. I think the Chargers could beat us. It wouldn't surprise me if they did. The Broncos could beat us that last week. So absolutely, the 1 seed is anything from locked up. That's why this game was so important, because this would have really like put you in a secure position. But we saw last year the Chiefs can go on the road, win away in the playoffs. But also, and not to take this is not a shot at Buffalo. We've seen Buffalo have some random games where they'll lose to the Texans or get blown out, or try to lose to the Colts or something. So it's possible both teams still stumble down the stretch. I'm sure both teams are going to lose again. I don't think either team is going to win out. Although Buffalo is on a hot streak right now, so we'll see. I think both teams are in a good space, and they just have to keep their head down and try to survive this whole injury bug they're dealing with. Everybody's dealing with.